Hi, I'm Nathan Matten, and welcome to Resync. In this show, we talk about the individual's search for meaning and the relationship that has to large systemic change in society. I asked guests to open up and be vulnerable about personal moments in their lives. So I'm talking with Yunzhe Zhou. She is a life designer, career coach, and founder of the 1 Month Project, a program that guides people through personal projects to reconnect with themselves and do their best work. She loves her career, which merges work and play, and attributes much of it to the year-long experiment in 2016 she did with 12 challenges in 12 months. So we'll have to hear a little bit more about that. But first off, how's it going?
Great. Yeah, it's going really great. I just started my 1 year of nomadism, so I'm back on the East Coast with family now for the holidays. What about you?
Yeah, things are going good for me. I did another interview earlier today that was pretty interesting. And going to a meditation retreat this weekend. So getting ready for that.
That's really awesome. That's a super common thing in the Bay Area too.
So Bay Area, right?
I was going to ask if it's 10 days or silent,
It's just a weekend.
Gotcha.
It's through this Plum Village tradition with Thich Nhat Hanh. I went to the same one last year, so it's just a weekend around Armistice and Veterans Day. It started actually 25 years ago when the Vietnam War was ending, and some veterans wanted to reconcile with some Vietnamese people, and they started doing this retreat as part of that, and so it carries on in that tradition.
Yeah, is this the author of a couple books?
A couple. I think he's written like 100 or something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've read a couple of his books. Yeah, he's a great writer and so simplistic the way he writes. And
yeah,
so
his writing is
profound.
so simple, isn't it? It's like straight to the heart.
Yeah, that's
That's what I
awesome.
like about that style is it's very heart focused.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what's on your mind these days?
Yeah, for me, I am thinking about, how to balance work and play, which is something that I have been working on. And 1 Month Projects is really the result of merging something that's work and play. And now just being back at home and having all this free time, it makes me think more about, how do I really deeply focus on work, and how do I indulge in the things that gives me joy and not have them kind of run into each other in a sense, kind of similar to meditation. How do I stay in the present without being too focused on the past or too worried on the future?
Have you figured that out, or work in progress?
It's always a work in progress. Something that I'm working on now is I'm preparing to go into 6 weeks of really deep work. And something that I have trouble with is burning out. So I'm brainstorming ways on preventative care, or like preventative measures on, how can I still insert joy and play into my life, kind of like playifying my routine almost, to prevent that sort of burnout in the future.
What causes the burnout for you?
I think it's really easy to focus on one thing and have other things or habits go to the wayside. The whole purpose of deep work is that you're intensely focused on work. And so it's really easy for you to not, exercise or do the things that you enjoy doing, because a part of your mind is kind of preparing for that. Okay, I'm going to silo myself and go into seclusion and really work on things. And a part of it is like, I think there's this common belief that work is not usually enjoyable. And even though work is really enjoyable for me now, and I've made it this way, sometimes it still seeps into my mind that, I should be suffering almost, or like I should, working hard doesn't mean enjoying it.
That's so funny. That's literally the conversation I was having with another guest earlier this morning.
Really? I can't wait to hear that interview because you said it was pretty interesting too.
Yeah. That's, I mean, this idea that you have to suffer to achieve things. I mean, I guess there's some, well, what do you think about it? There's always some things that aren't pleasurable in accomplishing a significant task. There's the logistics or whatever it is you don't like. Maybe it's confrontation. So how do you kind of reconcile that with making work enjoyable?
Growing up, I was taught that you work really hard and then you enjoy the fruits of your labor later. And I am someone who wants to enjoy the process. I feel it's important it's really important to enjoy the process because ultimately the end result, you get there and then you have another goal or you have another challenge. And so that's something that doesn't stop. But the process and the journey of getting there, I feel like that's the most important. And so, sorry, I totally forgot your question. Can you ask it again?
No problem at all. I was just asking you about kind of balancing the fact that some parts of work aren't pleasurable or aren't fun. Right. Doing most things, not everything, and then also, trying to keep it enjoyable, like you were saying.
Yeah. I used to think that suffering was necessary, and obviously that's still a belief that comes up as I navigate these waters. Now I feel that process is the most important because ultimately, once you get to your destination or your goal, you always set another one for yourself. And the process is what's really in the present, in the moment. And that's really the only thing that's real and the thing that really matters right now. And so to balance that, oftentimes I'll make sure that whatever I'm working on, I'm intrinsically motivated by. So it is something that I actually want to work on. And knowing that, as you mentioned, there's going to be obstacles and logistics, I try to time box those things. So setting aside like a Pomodoro for that, and then carving out space for the actual enjoyment process. So knowing that both exists and not expecting one to exist without the other, but trying to minimize the effect of suffering on the actual work process.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's important to you about the present? You said something like, the present is the most important thing. And I can sort of get that, but I'm curious to hear what that means to you and why that's your belief.
It's something that I have been struggling with. And meditation in general too. It's a habit that I've been trying for at least the last year now, and I've gotten it to a point where I can meditate 10 minutes every day using Calm. But the quality of focus is, I'm not very focused when I'm doing these meditations. And I've read books on meditation and the power of now. And so it's something that I know is really important. But I think the planner in me and part of me, wants to be able to control the future or just have things set in place. So that part of me is often really, how should I say it? There's part of me that is controlling and wants to predict and control the future. It conflicts with what's actually happening in the moment. And so this is something that I want to work on. And one way of doing that is like really savoring and noticing the details in the present right now. So for example, earlier today, I took a walk around my neighborhood, and on the East Coast, there's seasons, so there's beautiful leaves everywhere. And I went a lap around my neighborhood, which was about 15 minutes. And when I got back to my house, I realized that my thoughts has been wandering, and I've been thinking about all of these to-do lists and tasks I need to finish by the end of the day that I didn't really take in the walk. It was only within the last minute or two before I headed back in that I realized the beauty of leaves around me, and the soft crunch of your shoe as it hits the leaf on the ground. There's just so many details every day around you that it's often really easy to overlook when your mind is elsewhere.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, the minutia can be so important to enjoying
Mm-hmm.
yourself in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
like that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your childhood and growing up and
Mm-hmm.
how you came to be who you are today. So, what I'm curious about is how did you feel? I think one of the interesting things about you is you've taken a lot of entrepreneurial moves and gone and tried a lot of risks and taken a lot of
Mm-hmm.
responsibility for your life. I was wondering how you felt about responsibility as a kid.
Mm. As a kid, I had a lot of things set out for me. Like there was always this linear line that, you're going to get good grades, you're going to get all A's, you're going to go to high school, you're going to go to college. So as a kid, yeah, I don't remember much taking responsibility. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they start out when they're really young, or, at 7, they have this like uh, business that they started. But I would say for me, my childhood was pretty ordinary. Everything was pretty ordinary, I think, until college.
Interesting. So, when did you start to feel like that changed in college?
Yeah, college was when I first felt like I had a lot of freedom and openness and spaciousness in general. And I was really fortunate to meet friends and professors who was very supportive, and they had these different perspectives, or thought about things differently than what I was used to. So I was very used to just like thinking very conventionally. And I would say the responsibility part was jump started when I had my first major failure, or it seemed like a failure at the time, when I got deferred from the undergraduate business school. So our undergraduate business school was very famous, well known, and everybody strived to get in. And
Where was this? Just tell me what school.
yeah, sure. I went to University of Virginia, so we had
Okay.
an undergrad commerce school called McIntyre, and it was very sought after. And what appealed to me was that it would guarantee a life that was a set track. Like I wouldn't have to worry about anything. All I would have to do is take these classes and then end up in a pretty prestigious job, like, consulting or accounting or something like that. And that was what appealed to me the most, that I would be basically on the set track, that I didn't have to really worry about anything. And the huge shock came when I got deferred. And that moment felt like my life was just in like a downward spiral. Um, it really uprooted and just shook me from these plans that I had. And it really made me think about, or it forced me to think about, what did I really want to do with my life now that I'm not on this set track anymore? And how do I want to spend my time now that I have so much flexibility in my schedule? And even the previous track that I wanted to be on, was it something that I actually wanted to do in life?
So this
And that
was
was
you got deferred in high school, you're saying?
in college. So it was my second year of college. So the undergrad program was 2 years that you would enroll in your third and fourth year. So I
Okay,
basically
got it.
spent my first 2 years preparing for it and taking, all these crazy economics stats classes.
So then what happened when you got deferred? You said you had a lot of space, and what happened?
Yeah, I really had to think about what I wanted to do with my life now that this safety net was not available anymore. I had to think about what kind of courses do I want to take in my schedule now that it's really, really free. What do I want to do in the future? Is consulting or accounting even something that I want to pursue in the future? And what I realized was that even though I wasn't in the business school, I still wanted to take business classes. And that was when I first started really taking responsibility and basically created a curriculum for myself. I would still take psychology classes, but also cold email the professors in the business school to ask them to let me. I would email professors in the business school to pitch to them to let me in their classes. And yeah, that experience was very fulfilling to be able to handpick the classes that I was actually interested in and get the type of education that I want, even though on the surface, I was in the business school, but finding a way around that. And that was
Interesting.
really the start of this do-it-yourself learning education.
Also sounds like the obstacle became the way, huh?
Yes, yes. Great book as well.
I didn't mean the book, but I just meant the idea. But you're right, that is a book.
Yeah, for sure. It
Interesting.
reminds me of this quote that's like, there was always a front door that everybody goes through, and there was this back door that, you can get through if you have connections. And there's a side door that you can get through, hacking your way in. And that was basically what I did.
Which is your favorite door?
I like the side door.
Yes. So you started to feel responsible as you started having some of the plans you'd laid out not work out exactly as imagined,
Mm-hmm.
and then were able to find a side door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's I think you then go on and you work at Degreed,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a moment I think at Degreed where you also had to find a side door. Are you willing to share anything about that?
Yeah, sure. Degreed was really my dream job after I graduated.
And actually, sorry,
And
maybe tell people what Degreed is too, just so
oh,
people.
yeah, sure. When I worked there, it was a learning company. So basically, it was like the Netflix for learning, where it makes learning and taking these courses really easy. They would personalize it for you with like a daily list, and you got to track your skills so you can see your progress. And basically, everything related to learning that you've been doing over time. In a sense, it was like a lifelong learning portfolio, because the idea was that you don't stop learning after college. And from my personal experience, it was that you learn even more after college. And now they shifted to a more skills accreditation company where they would certify your skills and bridging that gap between employers and you as someone who's looking for a job.
Great. And so then you were saying you found a side door somewhere in that process, getting into Degreed?
Yeah. Yes. I had to put together my own education technology tour before I graduated to visit all these companies in San Francisco, and cold email a lot of people to find out about degree. So that's how I initially got in. And the sorry, I'm just gonna start over.
It's totally
Because I
fine.
think what you were alluding to was not this. So let me just start over.
You can answer whatever you want, but you're right. I was asking a bit about the internship.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, so I did have to use the side door again for degree. And what happened was that I was there for about 3 months. So it was actually an internship that I took on after I graduated, which, is pretty risky. But it was my dream company, and I felt that it was completely worth it to move across the country for this, as well as turning down other full-time offers in the Bay Area. And
Wait, so you turned down full-time offers for an internship?
Yes, that was something that really drove apart my relationship with my parents after I graduated, because it's every parent's nightmare for their child to not be able to have something stable after graduation.
Wow. But you were able to, you were just that certain that Degreed was the right place for you.
Yeah, because I didn't look at the financial security, but I looked more at the learning curve. Like, I was confident that I would be learning exponentially at this internship than at, bigger companies that, had high turnovers and was more bureaucratic, that kind of thing.
Great. So then, what happened? You're just saying you had an internship there, and what happened next?
Right. So I was at an internship over there. It was 3 months, and I was really banking on a full-time conversion because that was usually what happened and what I've been used to in past experiences. And so I set up a meeting with my manager at the time when I was interning, and go in the meeting pretty excited. And then I am told that my manager was not planning for me to stay, and that there was a role for me in that department. And that was another huge crushing moment because of everything that I've given up and all the sacrifices. And I love the company so much. It was my dream company. So just imagine, having that dream role kind of go out of your hands, disappearing suddenly.
What did that feel like for you?
Oh gosh, I remember sitting there in shock. I couldn't say much for a couple of minutes, but then had to pretend like everything was okay and that I was okay with it, and just this like sudden drop in your body, kind of like when you're going down a roller coaster, that sort of feeling.
Sounds kind of like a roller coaster moment.
Yeah, for sure. Even now, as I'm reliving it, I'm noticing that my hands are getting like more colder, more sweaty.
Wow.
Just thinking about that moment again. Yeah.
And so then what happened after that?
So after that was like another turning point in responsibility, realizing that I am and I need to be completely responsible for my life. And part of it was on me to not have that sort of open communication by having these assumptions, because everything seemed to be going so well. I was working on these projects, and I, like got complimented by head of sales, and I was having coffee chats with all the execs. So on the surface, I thought I was set. Then, and the side door that I found, or that I took, was I was really determined to basically not leave the company and to continue working there. So I decided to pitch a project to another manager in another department who I've worked with throughout my internship, and came up with a list of skills that I had to offer, list of ideas that I had for the direction that they wanted to grow into. and basically started again from internship and then transitioned into full-time
So
after
wait,
that.
did I hear you right that you pitched a role that didn't exist?
Basically, yeah, they weren't really looking for anyone in this other department. And I was like, these are the ways that I can help and help the company grow. And these are all the skills that I know. So basically, aligning my skill set to where the company was headed to in terms of growth.
So I bet a lot of people in life might want to try this. So tell me a little bit more. Like, how did that go? Did you pick a certain person who you thought would be most receptive, or just like how did you kind of find that side door so other people might also be able to do that for their lives and jobs?
Yeah, it was. So when I took the internship, it was actually for a different role than I was used to. So my background is in marketing, but I wanted to try out another position. And so when I went to pitch to the marketing manager, who was also the CMO at the time, because the marketing team was pretty small, I basically packaged all the experiences that I had with marketing in the past and really did a competitive analysis on what the company needed, what it was missing as they were heading into their next stage of growth or a quarter, and basically mapped the skills that I had to something that I thought they might need and would be beneficial to have.
And what did they say?
It went really well. And before the meeting, I also remember asking for a list of projects or a list of. I remember. Okay, sorry. Let me start with. And before the meeting, I remember asking for a list of ideas that they were thinking about doing or expanding into, so that way we could really sit down with where I was coming from, what I had in terms of the skills, and he could come in with what the projects that he's thinking about and what he needs, and we can really align that together and come up with something concrete that was beneficial for both of us.
Wow, that's incredible that worked. That is definitely something I know I've tried in the past unsuccessfully, and I'm sure other people could learn from you. So thanks for sharing. The other thing that
Happy
was
to help.
really interesting about what you were saying was this shift in the idea of what responsibility meant to you. So, I mean, I think we all know we're in charge of our career and our lives, but the way you say it just kind of makes me intrigued. Can you tell me more about what responsibility means to you today, and how that word kind of like shifted something deeper inside you?
Sure. I think for adults, your responsibility is to pay the bills and, get a 401k and do all these adult things. And for careers, I think it can often feel like it's kind of out of our hands. And something that I learned was choice, that when you are in this particular job or role, you're choosing to be there. And when you're not doing something, you're also making that choice. So when you're not gaining skills on the side or apply to that job that you really want, you're also choosing not to do that. And everything has an opportunity cost. And time really doesn't wait for you. In terms of the internship, so I'll start from the beginning. Responsibility for me in college meant that I am responsible for, I think even start from college, I realized that I'm responsible for my own learning. Like, yes, I wasn't admitted to the business school, and the business school typically didn't allow other students to take their classes. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the knowledge that I'm gaining. And so even though there are these barriers, it's still up to me to go over or overcome those barriers. And in college, I learned that it was possible. Um, and at Degreed, I learned that basically I was responsible for my outcomes as well. There was definitely certain things that I could have done to um, basically stay more in touch so that at the end of 3 months, it wasn't such a huge surprise to me. And realizing that, again, it doesn't have to be over once it ends, but there are other ways around it. For example, in thinking about where I can fit in another department or utilizing my skills for a better fit.
What I love about that is that's
Mhm.
basically what your program does now, right? You ask people to, so you've left Degreed, you have your own startup, which
Mhm.
makes sense. You
Yeah.
sound like you really like that responsibility and kind of
Mhm.
even think better maybe in that scenario. And now
Mm.
you ask other people to create side doors through a 1 month project. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. In a sense, these are like, as you know, we're going along the analogy of side doors, these are basically side projects in the sense that they can test out their ideal careers, whether they're in a career transition or starting a new one or just starting, that, you know, you can test it out, get experience in it, and see if it's something that you want to delve into. Because responsibility, it's huge for. Okay, well, we'll just end it there.
That's a hard way to do it. So the end of your last sentence, you were saying um,
Yes.
that responsibility. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to edit that. Would you mind just saying,
Okay. Yeah.
answering that question again, or just telling
Mhm.
me a little bit about the program that you're running now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll just talk more about the program. So, 1 month projects is basically a 4 week online program that helps people take the next step towards their ideal career, whether it's something that they've always wanted to do and have been neglecting, or just another transition or another stage in their life that they want to be at. And it's basically an experimental side project where you devote the whole month to really learning and gaining skills and testing it out to see if that is something that they want to do and continue with, and getting a feel for it. Basically, like a MVP for your ideal career.
And how many people have you worked with now?
Yeah, it's I've started it, officially launched it earlier this year. There's been 6 cohorts too so far, and I've worked about 30 people so far.
Wow, that's cool. So, what made you really think that this is the thing you want to be investing in, and this is your way to really help make change in the world?
Hmm. Yeah, great question. It was definitely not something that was always in my mind to start or do. The idea actually came from 2016 when I did a series of projects, so 12 projects in 12 months that year after what happened after my internship. The it basically stemmed from 2016 when I did 12 projects every month that year, because after the big surprise that I had at my internship, I realized that I really didn't have the skills that I needed. There was a lot of things that I want to try out, but was really whelmed about how to get there. And I also, didn't want to invest too much time on something that may or may not be I didn't want to invest too much time on something that may or may not work out. And so in 2016, I gave myself a monthly challenge that ranged from personal to professional. For example, starting a blog because I wanted to write better. I also just moved out to the Bay Area in 2015, so I wanted to meet new people. So I would go to an event called One Salon every Tuesday by myself to meet like 30 strangers, and that um, really helped me go out of my comfort zone and be comfortable with these uh, comfort challenges.
Uh,
And then after, oh, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And after that year, it was just really amazing to see that the monthly projects actually didn't end when the month ended, but a lot of them became habits over time. For example, video making and writing and dancing, those are a huge part of my life now. And when I quit in 2017, so last October, I basically took the concept of 1 month projects and all these learnings and takeaways. And I created my own learning bootcamp to really experience and figure out whether I wanted to do writing or instructional design full time. And one of the projects basically stemmed from that because I realized how powerful the framework of a 1 month project can be, especially when you combine an action plan and accountability, and how it can be such a great way to get experience and test out potential careers that you want and create your ideal career.
What's been your favorite 1 month experiment that either you or one of the people you've worked with has done?
Mm, my favorite. My favorite, and this is something that often surprises other people too. Um, for one of the months, it was try uncomfortable things. And that led to a pole dancing workshop, which is very popular in San Francisco, and something that I would never imagine myself doing. Um, because I have this really, I guess, unfortunate history with dance. When in middle school, I tried out for the dance team, and which was walk on, and I had to leave because I couldn't keep up with the choreography. So that was always something that like really haunted me, and I didn't think I would be able to do. And yeah, and I've kept with it. It's been 2 years now since I started dancing.
Wow. Yeah, that's so wonderful to get to take something from your past and say, "Oh, I actually can do this."
Hmm. Yeah. And so what's really cool is that so many unexpected things like merge out of these 1 month projects. Like you have this goal and then or this project and then you realize that wow, there's these other things that I'm interested in. So it just really opens a lot of new doors of possibilities that um, you may not have realized or even knew about if you didn't try. For example, with originally I thought I just wanted to do writing or instructional design, and what came out of that was I realized that I really enjoy both and I wanted to combine them into something. And that was probably something I would have never even thought about, combining these two ideal things.
That's awesome. One of the ones I loved reading about, you wrote an amazing blog post about how 25
Mhm.
side projects led to dream careers. And I
Yes.
loved the daily drop cap you write.
Yeah.
This was Jessica Shea's first personal project where she
Mhm.
designed a letter a day until she created 12 alphabets. She
Yeah.
attributes the daily drop cap to jumpstarting her lettering career, and at one point, this project attracted up to 100,000 visitors per month. And then, kind of to your point,
Mhm.
unexpected impact, you write, impact on her career capital. Since then, Jessica has been featured under Forbes 30 Under 30 twice, spoken
Mhm.
at more than 100 design events, and worked with clients ranging from Barack Obama to Nike to MailChimp. And so it
Right?
sounds very powerful. Yeah,
Mm.
what do you attribute to this having such great impact on people's careers?
Mm. I think it's two things. One is that usually when you start a side project, or the ideal is that you start doing something that you really enjoy doing or want to get better at. So this is where the intrinsic motivation comes in. Usually you don't do a side project, for work or for something that you feel like you should or have to do. And so by having that genuine interest, it really compounds over time. And the second factor is persistence. As Jessica um, did for her daily cap drop, she kept up with it consistently over time. And when you do that day after day, month after month, you get better at it. You achieve mastery in it, and in turn, you like it even more. So these two aspects together create this really awesome feedback loop that um, compounds exponentially over time.
Wow, that sounds great. What's what do you feel like is the skill that you've been most held back by? Like if you were just X% better at a skill, you'd go for something you wouldn't go for otherwise in your life.
Whoa, that is a really great question. This is actually something that I just thought and wrote about today. I was making a list of skills in business that would like 10x growth, or the 80-20 rule. And what came up was promotion. And I think it stems deeper down to self-worth as well. Not necessarily that I don't believe in the product to be great or that it has good value. I think it's more of, am I deserving of this if there was this huge success? Did I work hard enough to achieve that? And this is kind of going back to earlier when we were talking about hard work and suffering, right?
Totally.
Can life be this good? And I think that mindset can hold you back a lot from, playing small and not playing bigger, being bolder, taking bigger risks.
Do you have a story from your life about that?
Yeah, for the 1 month projects too, it was also created out of going through the program Zero to Launch, and which is a online business accelerator program. And I was doing it with a friend who is my accountability buddy. And for the longest time, I refused to set financial goals for my business because, one, I was kind of afraid that I would not hit it, which I don't quite believe. I think deeper down, there's this feeling that my life would change so much if I hit it, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for that change. So it's this self-limiting belief. And it's what I've seen with people who go through the 1 month projects program too, because having that ideal career and starting on that ideal lifestyle, it's scary because it feels so true, but it would also mean that their life would totally change and their previous assumptions would have to be uprooted. So this is something that, in terms of promotion and self-worth, is something that I am working on right now. And that is also the thought behind the next week, 6 weeks of deep pour to, set financial goals and hit them and see how I can take the program to the next level by generating even more value, and that would benefit the people who go through the program as well as me too, because then I am living my ideal lifestyle now, and I think I can serve a better example of that as I'm reaching even higher, and going after that potential.
Hmm. So you went really deep with that one. I was asking you for a skill, and you're like, "Well, self-worth, yeah." That's something so many of us struggle with. I completely can relate to that. If this all came true, that would actually be really scary because then I'd have to work a lot, and then I'd have to,
Mhm.
oh crap, my life would be entirely different.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Wow. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing all this stuff. Is there anything I didn't ask that you really wanted to tell me about, or you wanted to discuss or converse about today?
Mm, I let's see. I haven't asked for, but I think I could probably ask it in 2 minutes. I guess I'm more curious about if you have any other questions for me.
Yeah. So the last thing I usually ask is just about action. I like to sort of, well, yeah, we can just have that and then
Mm,
you can ask your question. Okay.
sure.
So, how can people who are interested in building skills, what's like one thing or one way that you'd recommend someone could listen to this and then take some action that would really help them be that X% better and then go for that dream of theirs?
Mm, taking one step at a time is really crucial because change is incremental, and by taking this little step or cultivating this habit, it really compounds over time. Currently, I'm reading this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about, if you just get 1% better every day for a year, at the end of the year, you would be 37% better, which is really incredible. And the scary part is that if you decline by 1% every day, then at the end of the year, you are basically down to 0%. So, this is something that's very scary, but also powerful and empowering at the same time. I would recommend picking a skill that they genuinely want to do. I think that's really the first step, because we grow up in a world where others will tell us what to do or what's good for us. Society tells us to pursue prestigious jobs, and our parents tell us to pursue stable jobs. And something that I've really seen in, people who go through the program is that over time they kind of lose their identity, what they used to enjoy. They're not sure what they enjoy now. So, for those who are listening, I invite you to try out something that you've always wanted to do or something that you've been neglecting, even if it's 10 minutes per day or setting aside an hour a week for it. Especially something that it feels like there's not really any value to doing that now, because oftentimes the most fulfilling things are the things that we do for the sake of doing it and because we enjoy it in the present. And that's how I started, and that's how Jessica started with her project and now her career. So making space, devoting X amount of time per day or per week to pursuing a skill that you genuinely think you would enjoy. And I think the returns from that would really be 10x over the lifetime.
That's great. Yeah, I think definitely investing in yourself is one of the things I always encourage people to do as well. So, where
Mm,
could people find more about your program?
sure. My program is on Valuable or Teachable. So it's kind of a long link. I could probably just send you the link, or they can go on my LinkedIn or on my website, and then they can find about the 1 month projects program there.
Okay. Just for anyone who isn't at a computer listening to this,
Mm.
is there
Oh yeah,
a website or something they could write down and look up later?
Yeah, sure. The link is valuable.teachable.com.
Great.
And my course the program is up there.
Your course is what again?
Oh, the program is up there.
And the name of it is?
1 Month Projects.
Got it. Great. Well, yeah, those were all my questions. You said you had one thing you wanted to bring up as well?
Yes. There's actually a couple of things on my bucket list. So if you have readers who would be able or like willing to co-create, I think that would be really awesome. And the two things are also, as a side note, I don't know how relevant this is. But the first is I picked up the skills of dancing and videography, and it's been like a goal to film a video with someone who can break dance. So it would be like a really cool duet of street dancing. And the second one is, well, I'm going to be traveling a lot for the next year or so. So if you have any international listeners, I love to meet them in person, or if they are dancers as well, I think it would be really cool to like go around to where local artists or bands are playing and do partner dancing. That just feels really freeing, especially as I am also going on like a year long of self-expression. So I think it would be a great way to support the local music scene as well as indulge in expression and play.
Great. Well, anyone who's interested, where would they find you?
That's a great question. I guess I will update my. They can go to my website, yunzhezhou.com, and I'll be updating my locations and my travels there as well.
Great. Well, yeah, definitely. It'd be exciting. I should also introduce you to a friend of mine who's done a lot of dancing internationally.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be really awesome. I know my request was super random.
It's okay. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining and sharing about your life. It was very, very interesting to learn about. And I think the program you're developing sounds like a really interesting way for people to build skills, confidence, and self-worth.
Thanks, Nathan. You summarized it really, really well.